Amongst ministers, it's said that every minister has one sermon message. And I, give the same message over and over and over again. Now, a good minister will vary the presentation, format, but it's still the same message. When this topic comes up at ministers' retreats, most ministers agree it's true. And here are some of the one-line messages I've heard at those retreats. Love is always the answer. And another one, life is either heaven or hell. It depends on your choice. Another one is everything can change in an instant. And another is act on your beliefs. And a rather famous Unitarian Universalist minister with over 50 years in the ministry is this one. Why can't you people just grow up? I think mine is pay attention. What you do today matters now and for the future. You ever think about the future? Do you ever not think about the future? And maybe now you're thinking about someone you need to talk to in social hall, social hour. Or maybe you're thinking about you need to put gas in your car before you get home. Well, if you're thinking about stuff like that, that's okay. Just pay attention when you can. I've met very few people who are present constantly. Most of us are very future focused. And mostly we're dismal in our thoughts about the future. We tend to be worst case scenario thinkers. Have you ever heard of Brene Brown? Yeah, okay, she's like a patron saint of Unitarians. She ran this experiment. She's a researcher in vulnerability and awareness and a lot of, look on TED Talks. Just Google her. She's got some great TED Talks. She ran this experiment over thousands of people, and the story goes like this. What she gave to people, say, okay, here's the scenario. Mother and father and 2 kids are getting ready, and it's Christmas Eve, and they're going to grandparents' house. They're going to grandma's house. So they pack up the car, and they're singing, and they're joyful, and it's just so exciting. They put all the packages in the car. They pile into the car, they turn the radio station to a carol station, they're singing carols together, and they're just driving along, and it's snowing, and it's beautiful. And then she asked, what happens next? 65% of the time, something horrible happens when people respond. And she plotted this out. So she surveyed thousands of people. And the 65% or more say something. And she cited some of them, like, mass murderer gets into the house, an alien comes and takes the car away. And she said the most bizarre one was the family gets eaten by a shark. So the point is, we worry. We worry about what might happen. Mark Twain may have said this, I spent most of my life worrying about things that never happened. There's a lot to worry about. There really is. Especially if you read the news. I subscribe to 4 or 5 major U.S. news sources, and I get their online papers every morning. But I'm reading them less and less. Because my uncontrollable worry is worse when I read a lot of newspapers. Oh, I want to be informed. And I still skim them, but I hate feeling so helpless and worried about everything. Yeah, there's a lot to worry about, especially what might happen. You heard in our readings today the rise of authoritarianism, the income wealth inequity, persistent racism, climate change. That's at the global level. There's stuff happening at the local level. And I know you've got personal worries as well about your own body, your family. But there's a lot to be joyful about, too. Starvation is no longer a threat to humanity. Humans are raising enough food. There's distribution problems due to war and blockades, but we make enough food to feed the entire world. Your medical care has never been better in the history of humanity. Likely you won't die of a tiny cut. Your standard of living is the highest in human history. You're warm in the winter, cool in the summer. And you can be anywhere on the globe in 24 hours. And a major global war has not occurred in over 75 years. Let me tell you a story. I worked in the aerospace industry for 30 years, most of it in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the factory where I worked employed several thousand people. And then we had suppliers and vendors from all over the United States, which meant a lot of airplane travel for some of us. So we traveled a lot of airplane trips. On November 11th, 1965, a 9-month-old Boeing 727 started to land at the Salt Lake City airport, came in too fast, and crashed, killing 43 of the 85 passengers on board. The cause was the captain just didn't take into account the rate of descent. Over half the passengers died in that crash. And I met someone on that plane. He worked at the factory where I worked. And when I learned of his survival, I asked him, saying, "Tell me about it." He said, "I don't really think about it." I was astounded. I mean, how can you not be deeply, spiritually affected by such an experience? Don't you feel lucky, called, blessed? I don't really think about it. It just happened. I survived. It's in the past. I've thought about this guy for over 40 years. He wasn't a particularly happy man. He wasn't a particularly sad man. He wasn't a particularly worrisome man. He was doing the best he could every day, despite what had happened to him. I think I'm beginning to understand. It's not about what has happened to us. It's about who we are today. Life is about who we are today. One of our human dilemmas is that we need to keep on living while we're worrying about imagined futures. It's a dilemma because there's a lot of worst-case scenarios that we can conjure up. And a lot of those scenarios make what we do today seem meaningless. I mean, I might die tomorrow. Do I need to floss? I might die penniless, so maybe I should just keep all my money to myself, you know, just in case. If I'm too trusting, someone's going to take advantage of me. Because as humans, we are superb worriers. Some people call humans unique as being laughing bipeds. I prefer to think we're bipeds that overthink things. What are we to do as religious people? As you've heard from the reading, I'm a big fan of the Stoic philosophers. And one of their approaches to life is not being too distracted by things you cannot control. Epictetus, born in 50 AD, lived to be 85. He said this. This is very good background. Some things are in our control. Very timely. Some things are in our control, while others are not. We control our opinion, our choice, our desire, aversion, and in a word, everything of our own doing. We don't control our body, our property, our reputation, and in a word, everything that's not of our own doing. My interpretation of Epictetus' words are this: there's only two things that you can control, that you do control: your thoughts and your actions. Now, This realization can be really upsetting if you're a control freak. Maybe it can be humbling. Maybe it can help you with acceptance, just maybe. I'm taking this class entitled The Evolution of Morality, and it's just fascinating. And this week I learned about the role of mirror neurons in interpersonal relationships. Now, mirror neurons are very simply our ability to feel, sense, and experience our own emotion by watching someone else experience something. This also includes a physical experience by watching someone else. This is how movies work. We laugh, we cry, we get angry when we're watching something on the screen, someone else doing things. This is how photography works. We experience emotion and reaction just by looking at something. This is how music works. We can be emotionally swayed by just hearing someone else play an instrument. Not you playing it, just hearing it. We can be swayed. This is how sports works. We experience a wide range of emotions on how our team plays, sometimes shouting, waving our fist when we're not doing anything. Did you watch the Super Bowl? If I were to smash my finger right now with a hammer, you would wince, perhaps cry out. So if humans and all primates, or I'll say all primates, have mirror neurons, what do you think happens when someone sees you do something? When someone listens closely to what you say? If you act out of anger, other people feel that anger and they respond. And they may want to join. If you act out of compassion and love, other people feel that love. If you act out of revenge and exclusion, other people lean that way. If you act with cooperation and forgiveness, other people see the value in that and feel it. And the amazing thing is that not only do other people feel compassion, love, cooperation, forgiveness, when they see you act that way, those feelings leave an imprint on them. You imprint on them. Because of motor neurons, you're sending out waves of feelings with every action you take, with every word you say. This is the role of religious people. To act out of love because it sends waves of love to everyone around us. This is our role as religious people, not to act out of hate, because that also sends out waves. You only control two things: your thoughts and your actions. And then with these two things, you wield the power to change the world around you. They change. You change the world around you. So the question to you is, what kind of world do you want? The future will come from what happens today. It depends on what you do today. It depends on what you think today. Pay attention. Today matters now and for our future. Amen, and blessed be.